In Japanese folklore, spirits were highly respected and glorified, but also greatly feared, since, when interacting with humans, they were subject to unleash either good or bad fortune for life. Thus, the foxes called kitsune, curious Japanese mythological creatures and spirits, were considered to be benevolent animals, symbols of intelligence and cunning that were committed to human life. But there could also be evil and destructive spirits, which with a single attack could wreak great havoc on the world. The myth tells that foxes were highly respected animals in the Japanese countryside, because in those places these animals had several supernatural abilities that made them great spirits, either of good or evil. The kitsune were foxes that had the great ability to transform into other creatures, especially humans, which mostly helped them to interact with the real world coming from an unknown spiritual plane. These amazing creatures, upon entering the earthly world, were quote-unquote common animals, but when in their original world were beings of great power and strength. It is said that the older the kitsune became, the more tails they could have, so that every 100 years they reached age of 100 years, a new tail would open its way into their body, being the 9 tails a sign of high rank and power, becoming even a divine being. Likewise, his whole body underwent a great transformation, because when he reached the age of 1,000 years and became a fox with 9 tails, he became a Kyubi no Kitsune, considered a superior being. Its fur became silver or intense gold, it could blow fire from its breath, or at the same time launch burning flames from its tail, and its magical powers increased enormously, as well as its cunning. It is pointed out that this powerful being could see and hear everything that happened in the whole world, being a supreme being of a high spiritual level possessing absolute wisdom. On the other hand, if a Kyubi became evil, he could unleash tremendous chaos in the cosmos, since his aggressiveness, madness, and power would be uncontrollable and indestructible. Kitsune's fury is so severe that for thousands of years, according to Japanese beliefs, this being is responsible for great disasters such as earthquakes, fires, storms, and other catastrophes due to its perverse anger. It is said that when these creatures get angry, they unleash their fury on the earth, causing great misfortunes in the world. According to tradition, the kitsune are divided into 2 different classes. Zenko would be those foxes that are the royal messengers of the goddess Inari, goddess of fertility, agriculture, and good luck. Thus, these would be the eternal guardians of the entrance to the Shinto temples, allowing the passage of the kitsune from the spiritual world to the earthly world to communicate with the powerful goddess. It is believed that these sacred passages were located in hidden deep caves, which would explain why the foxes live in large secret subway dens. When the Zenko took human form, they could become extremely loyal and kind to people, even forming lifelong relationships, where the kitsune would lend their wisdom and magic to help their close and important acquaintances. They were extremely faithful beings and created an unbreakable bond with those they considered fundamental, even fulfilling human wishes and desires, which demonstrated their kindness and nobility. On the other hand, there are the Yako, and unlike the Zenkos, these are mischievous creatures who mostly enjoyed playing pranks and mischief on humans. But also, they were very prone to harm anyone in their path. The most common thing about the arrival of the Yako to Japanese homes was the destruction of the chicken coops and crops of the farmers, who were extremely frightened and warned others to prevent damage, as they could even attack the lives of the villagers, becoming extremely aggressive and cruel. Over time, the kitsune managed to develop magnificent abilities that surpassed human understanding, because from being simple animals they managed to become men and women of flesh and blood. It is generally said that the kitsune transformed into beautiful women of slender figures and angelic faces, once they adopted the customs, characteristics, and even human speech, sought to marry men, father children, and form a family forever. These creatures were able to maintain their human form for long periods, which allowed them to stay with their true love for generations. Thus, the common belief in medieval Japan was that any woman found alone, especially at dusk or night, could be a fox. Kitsune women were described as human women who had a narrow face with close-set eyes, very thin eyebrows, and a high jaw. Traditionally, this facial structure was considered very attractive, but they associated it with the human form of foxes. Similarly, human kitsune, in making their transformations, often retained some of their fox-like features. The most usual thing they showed was a layer of fine hair that they always tried to hide, a fox-shaped shadow, difficulty to hide their tails, or a reflection that showed their true nature so that no woman could see her reflection since they lost their human figure in seconds. So too, it is said that when a kitsune was discovered, he would return to his natural form and flee desperately, as he was forced to leave the earthly plane, or at least his family. A famous story detailing the misfortune of an old fox is the Legend of Kohan. It is told that Kohan was a prestigious sage possessed of magical gifts and great powers of divination, well known throughout Japan. According to the story, Kohan was visiting one of his devotees and decided to take a hot bath before preparing for bed. The sage kindly asked for a tub of hot water, but when he lifted his foot to dive in, a scream interrupted the constant murmur of the whole house, as the water was too hot, causing the old man to jump in pain, as he had been burned. In desperation, he ran out to another room where the other devotees were, and when they saw him, they were shocked. Kohan had appeared before the others, completely naked, showing his unusual human form, from which hung a long fox tail, denoting his true nature. Everyone in the house looked on in horror, completely stunned to see that the wise old man was a true kitsune. Kohan, upon being discovered, had no choice but to transform into a fox again. In front of his devotees, the old man was a beautiful nine-tailed kyubi, whose golden fur emanated a faint beautiful splendor, and so he left the house in terror, running away from the humans, fleeing forever. Similarly, the myth relates that the kitsune also had other gifts to get closer to humans. They could possess the bodies of people through their spirits. In most cases, this dark event was not bad for man, because many times the spirit foxes entered the bodies so that they could enjoy human company in the great festivals and celebrations in the villages. In addition, they used to enjoy the magnificent banquets that received visitors, things that they could not do being animals. According to legend, hundreds of years ago there was a kyubi who was filled with evil and greed, unleashing great conflicts among the people of Nasu. The fable tells that Tamimonome was an evil spirit, a nine-tailed fox that disguised itself as a beautiful maiden and managed to intrude into Japanese society. Over the years, the strange appearance of the kitsune became less suspicious, as she won the love and appreciation of all the people, making them forget the questions about her origin. Thus, the beautiful young woman went unnoticed for many years, which she used to plan a macabre strategy that would help her to take the power of everything known. Tamamo approached the Japanese elite with deceit, and in the best opportunity she had, she tried to assassinate the great Emperor Toba, to take his throne. Fortunately, the royal guard managed to stop her, after a long and bloody battle, where the brave warrior Miura no Sake fiercely confronted the vixen, finally killing her. Years later, a great tragedy sowed terror in Nasu, because near a hot spring, there was a mysterious stone, which had the power to kill in seconds anyone who touched it. It was believed that this fact was caused by the spirit of the defeated Kyubi years before, which was to terrorize the whole world from the supernatural world. After many deaths caused by the Sesho Seiki stone, a Buddhist priest named Zeno, annoyed by the evil of the spirit, decided to perform a ritual that trapped the demon inside the sinister rock, thus putting an end to the evil that haunted Nasu. Thus, it is assumed that, to this day, the evil spirit of Tamamo remains locked in the great rock Sesho Seiki, for all eternity.